In 1954, a mysterious man with Caucasian features arrived at Tokyo Airport with a passport never seen before. During the interrogation, the man was asked to point out his country on a map. He became horrified when he saw that in place of his country, the documents in his bag were examined, and his work papers were found to be invalid. What made the situation even more mysterious was his passport. It was genuine and bore official stamps showing he had traveled to various countries. Even stranger, the passport had official stamps showing he had entered Tokyo 5 years earlier. However, Tokyo's Haneda Airport had only opened 2 years before the event in 1954. The man spoke several languages and carried currency from European countries, insisting that his country, Taured, had existed for centuries. While officials investigated his claims, the mysterious man vanished from the airport police station, where he was being held and was never found again. The story of this mysterious stranger first appeared on April 5, 1851, in the English newspaper Athenaeum. A man named Joffer Voring was found wandering, disoriented near a village outside Frankfurt, Germany. He had no idea where or when he was. While he spoke German with a strange accent, he also spoke and wrote in two unknown languages. Joffer claimed that these languages were Laxarian and Abramian, and that they were the native languages of Laxaria, the place he came from. According to him, Laxaria was a city in a region called Sacria, located across a vast sea from Europe. The only thing Joffer remembered was that he had set sail from his homeland to find his long-lost brother and that his ship had been caught in a storm and sunk. He was later taken to Berlin for further investigation, but no one could ever determine where he came from or who he was. In the 12th century, a mysterious event took place in the village of Woolpit, England. Villagers wandering through the forest found two young siblings. Their skin was completely green, and they wore unusual clothing. The villagers took them to the town, but the children spoke a language no one had ever heard before, making communication impossible. The children appeared exhausted, and when offered food, they refused to eat. For 2 or 3 days, they did not touch any of the food given to them until they discovered raw beans in the house where they were staying, which they began to eat. In the days that followed, the girl started to recover, but the boy's condition worsened, and he eventually died. Over the years, the girl began to eat normally, and her skin color returned to normal. She also learned to speak English. According to her account, they came from a dark land where the sun never rises, called St. Martin. When asked how they arrived in Woolpit, she explained that she and her brother were herding their father's sheep in the forest when one of the sheep entered a cave. Following the sound of the bell around the sheep's neck, they suddenly found themselves in an unfamiliar forest, having emerged from the cave. Even after many years, the mystery of where the children came from and how they arrived in Woolpit was never solved. In 1863, an unidentified man was found on Sandy Cove Beach in Nova Scotia, Canada. Both of his legs had recently been amputated. According to those who found him, the man could not understand any language spoken to him, and the only word he could say that was recognizable was Jerome. He was never able to explain where he came from, but local people claimed that on the night he washed ashore, they had seen a ship unlike anything they had ever seen before. Jerome spent the rest of his life in silence, living in seclusion. Except for one event, he was never seen communicating with anyone. One evening, 2 elegantly dressed women visited Jerome in the care facility where he lived. Meeting with him privately, witnesses reported that the 3 of them communicated in a language they had never heard before. Afterward, the 2 women left as abruptly as they had arrived and were never seen again. Various Japanese historical records mention a mysterious event that occurred in 1803. Near the Hitachi settlement, a woman washed ashore in a metal boat with crystal clear windows. She was found by local fishermen, and her skin was pale white, with striking red hair. She spoke a language no one had ever heard before. Although she had few belongings, she tightly clutched a small square box. Local authorities were never able to determine where the woman came from or who she was, out of fear of the strange vessel and unable to communicate with her. The villagers placed her back into the craft and sent her back to sea.